China has formally rejected U.S. demands to halt oil and gas purchases from Russia and Iran, calling these imports a sovereign right and vital to national security. A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson declared that energy partnerships are based on China's development needs, not external pressure. This move comes amid tense trade negotiations, signaling Beijing's willingness to negotiate on some issues, but not on core strategic interests. By continuing energy trade with sanctioned nations, China is openly challenging the US-led global order. The decision undermines Washington's sanctions strategy, providing Russia and Iran with crucial economic lifelines. China's defiance is more than a bilateral dispute. It's a bold assertion of independence that reshapes global power dynamics. The message is clear. China will not let its energy security be dictated by outside forces. This marks a new era of confrontation between the world's two largest economies. Washington was caught off guard by China's blunt refusal, a response that sent shockwaves through the corridors of power. The expectation had been for a more measured, perhaps even conciliatory reply from Beijing. But instead, the US faced a wall of resistance. US officials had assumed that economic threats and ongoing trade talks would be enough to sway Beijing's position. However, they underestimated just how deeply China prioritizes its energy security and strategic autonomy, values that trumped short-term economic incentives. The timing of China's refusal, right in the midst of what seemed like productive trade negotiations, led some in Washington to expect broader concessions. Yet, China compartmentalized its approach, cooperating on tariffs while firmly defying US demands on energy, signaling a clear boundary. This strategic decoupling has forced US negotiators to fundamentally rethink their leverage and the assumptions underpinning their strategy. The threat of tariffs and sanctions, once a powerful tool, loses much of its impact when China believes it can withstand the pressure or even retaliate in kind, creating a new balance of risk. China's massive, sophisticated economy gives it the confidence to stand firm, knowing that the US is also deeply dependent on Chinese goods, technology, and supply chains that are not easily replaced. Beijing is betting that, when faced with the prospect of mutual economic harm, Washington will ultimately back down, rather than risk a full-blown confrontation that could destabilize both economies. The US miscalculated China's resolve and its willingness to absorb significant pain for the sake of protecting its core interests, a misjudgment that has now become painfully clear. Now, both sides find themselves locked in a high-stakes standoff, with neither willing to blink first, and the world watching closely as tensions escalate. The US must urgently reassess its approach, weighing new strategies and considering the long-term implications of this evolving rivalry. China's defiance has fundamentally changed the game, setting the stage for a new era of competition and uncertainty between the world's two largest economies. The US has dramatically escalated its trade dispute with China, threatening to impose a sweeping 100% tariff on all Chinese imports if Beijing refuses to comply with American demands. This move signals a significant intensification of economic pressure, raising the stakes for both countries. Such a measure would be the harshest in the US trade arsenal, potentially affecting hundreds of billions of dollars in goods and disrupting global supply chains. Meanwhile, Congress is weighing even tougher actions, including secondary sanctions that would target any company or country helping China secure energy deals with Russia and Iran, further tightening the economic noose. Despite mounting pressure, China remains publicly unfazed. Officials insist they will not yield to threats or coercion, projecting an image of strength and unity to the world. Chinese analysts warn that these tariffs could backfire on the US, driving up inflation, causing shortages, and creating chaos in American supply chains, effects that could ripple through the global economy. By holding firm, China is calling Washington's bluff, using its vast energy imports as a powerful bargaining chip in broader trade negotiations, and signaling it won't be easily intimidated. Behind the scenes, China is working to strengthen its domestic economy, diversify its trade partners, and accelerate efforts to develop alternatives to the US dollar, reducing its vulnerability to American sanctions. Covert shipping methods and creative logistics now help China evade sanctions, revealing a long-term strategy to insulate itself from US pressure and maintain access to critical resources. This is not just a temporary dispute, but a sign of a deepening and lasting economic and strategic rivalry between the world's two largest economies. The ongoing standoff is a true test of resolve, determination, and endurance for both nations, with neither side willing to back down easily. As tensions rise, the world is watching closely, waiting to see which superpower will blink first, and what the outcome will mean for the future of global trade and diplomacy. The current standoff is rooted in years of escalating US-China trade tensions. The 2018 trade war saw tariffs on hundreds of billions in goods, with both sides retaliating. A Phase 1 deal in 2020 left core issues unresolved, and tariffs largely remain. Now, the dispute has shifted from trade to foreign policy, as the US uses economic power to punish Russia and constrain Iran. China rejects these unilateral sanctions, arguing they lack UN backing and conflict with its interests. This is a fundamental clash over who sets the rules of the global system. The US has long enforced these rules through its financial dominance. China's defiance is a direct challenge to that role. The unresolved trade war has merged with a broader geopolitical struggle. The stakes are higher than ever for both nations and the world. Official reactions from both capitals are uncompromising. In Washington, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and lawmakers warn that aiding Russia will have consequences, with all options, including tariffs, on the table. Congress is pushing legislation to mandate automatic tariffs on countries undermining sanctions. The US frames this as a global security issue, not just a trade dispute. Beijing responds by emphasizing sovereignty and mutual benefit, rejecting unilateral sanctions as illegitimate. Chinese state media portrays the US as hypocritical and hegemonic, highlighting that other US allies also seek diverse energy sources. The Chinese government's narrative is one of strength and principle, rallying domestic support. Both sides are locked into positions that make compromise politically difficult. The rhetoric on both sides signals a hardening divide. Analysts warn that the dispute between the United States and China is escalating far beyond mere trade friction, evolving into a dangerous and complex strategic confrontation that could reshape the global order for years to come. What began as disagreements over tariffs and market access has now grown into a much broader contest for influence and dominance on the world stage. Dr. Evelyn Reed, a leading expert in international relations, notes that this is now a clash over the very architecture of global power, with both sides drawing increasingly firm red lines. She emphasizes that neither Washington nor Beijing appears willing to back down, raising the stakes for everyone involved. The risk of a full-blown economic war is real and growing. US tariffs could trigger swift Chinese retaliation, including restrictions on exports of critical minerals, new regulatory hurdles, or even direct actions against American companies operating in China. The consequences could ripple across industries worldwide. Such escalation could easily plunge the global economy into a deep recession, disrupting markets, jobs, and livelihoods in every corner of the world. The world is now splitting into rival economic blocs, with the US pressing its allies to choose sides, while China deepens its ties with Russia, Iran, and other partners. This realignment is redrawing the map of global alliances and trade. This decoupling is already disrupting supply chains, raising costs, and making it harder for countries to cooperate on urgent global challenges like climate change, health crises, and technological innovation. The ongoing energy dispute threatens to poison progress on other trade issues, as countries scramble to secure resources and protect their own interests. Trust between Washington and Beijing has fallen to a historic low, with both sides doubting each other's intentions and sincerity at every turn. Each side now views the other with deep suspicion, heightening the risk of miscalculation and unintended escalation. The danger is that this mutual distrust could become a self-fulfilling prophecy, locking both nations into a cycle of confrontation that is increasingly difficult to escape. The world stands at a critical juncture, facing choices that will shape the future of international relations, economic stability, and peace for generations to come. The US-China standoff is already shaking global markets, supply chains, and inflation. Energy markets are volatile as US sanctions, and China's defiance threaten to spike prices worldwide. Sanctioning China's dark fleet tankers could remove millions of barrels from the market overnight, hurting economies everywhere. Escalating tariffs would disrupt global supply chains, making countless products more expensive and harder to source. American consumers would face higher prices on everything from electronics to clothing. Inflation would surge, forcing central banks to consider further rate hikes and risking recession. Businesses, facing uncertainty, are delaying investments and hiring. The ripple effects are global, impacting factories and workers far beyond the US and China. The climate of fear is slowing the entire world economy. The standoff's economic fallout is just beginning. China's defiance on energy imports reflects a deeper strategic alignment with Russia and Iran. For Russia, Chinese purchases of oil and gas provide a vital economic lifeline amid Western sanctions. The partnership extends to military and technology cooperation, with US officials accusing China of supplying dual-use components to Russia. China's relationship with Iran also provides Tehran with crucial revenue and gives Beijing a secure energy source outside US control. This trilateral cooperation challenges US influence and creates a bloc seeking alternatives to the Western-dominated system. They're trading more in their own currencies, building new institutions, and coordinating at the UN. China's stance is a deliberate move to build a multipolar world where US power is balanced. The implications for global order are profound. China's rejection of US demands marks a turning point in global affairs. The era of US unilateralism is being challenged by a confident China willing to absorb economic pain for its interests. The standoff exposes the limits of US sanctions and the risks of mutual economic harm. Markets face ongoing volatility, supply chains remain threatened, and inflation could surge. Geopolitically, the world is dividing into rival blocs, complicating cooperation on urgent global issues. The outcome of US-China trade talks and new US legislation will be critical. Other major powers like India and the EU must now navigate this divide. This is a stress test for the global system, forcing nations to reconsider alliances and dependencies. The path forward is uncertain. Potentially a new Cold War, a fragmented economy, or a new balance of power. The world is watching as decisions in Washington and Beijing shape the future for everyone.